All right. Thank you very much for being with us, Dr. Chandima Gangodawila. He is speaking now directly from the Department of Philosophy at Ateneo de Manila University. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr.
in the Journal of Buddhist Ethics, Penn State University Press. Please help me welcome Dr. Chandima Gangodawila, a distinguished scholar and dedicated.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, the MC, Chris, and Mr. Joe Manning, the IEL coordinator of the philosophy department in the Bukidnon State University. At the same time, thank you, the chair professor in the department, faculty, president of the university, and everybody who sent this gracious invitation for me to address your Philosophy International Conference today. And as you may have seen that I will be giving a public talk about transhumanism, which means scientific advancements that go beyond the biological limits of humans in the lens of Buddhist virtues. So this is going to be my talk today. May I see if I can share my screen over here? Let's see. All right, so the topic is going to be Cyborg Sīla, Buddhist virtue ethics in the age of transhumanism. Once again, good morning, everybody. So, as you can see, a cyborg is a cybernetic creature that scientific advancements have been making to outsmart, surpass human activity. So the hypothesis here is that is it possible for a cyborg to transcend or to outsmart? Definitely outsmart is possible, but transcend the human nature of the virtues with regard to transhumanist activities. Is my presentation on the screen? Okay, good, great. Right. So let us take a look at of the transhumanism at the beginning. As you already know, the aim of transhumanism is to transcend biological limits such as aging, suffering, cognitive constraints. So this is a very interesting area when we study about ethics in philosophy. Is it possible for transhumanists or scientists to engineer virtues? I mean, going beyond what we know from the concepts. And what are the things that they are using to do this activity? You can see genetic engineering, neural implants, AI symbiosis, cryonics, mind uploading. So let us take a look at what those technologies are. These are very common activities that we already know. You can see CRISPR, Cas9 therapy. This helps to edit defective genes to cure inherited diseases such as sickle cell anemia or muscular dystrophy. Bioenhancements, such as altering genes to increase muscle density or resistance to aging. This is very interesting because we understand that there are lots of what you call breakthroughs that have been happening even from anti-aging market. So I think these bioenhancements might definitely help. And synthetic biological aspect, designing organisms that produce pharmaceuticals or clean up pollution. So this is about genetic engineering. And neural implants, you can see Neuralink. This was mainly by Elon Musk some time ago. A brain-computer interface, BCI, enabling direct communication between neurons and computers. The purpose was to restore mobility or memory, and retinal implants, restoring hearing or partial sight through electronic stimulation of sensory nerves, and DBS, deep brain stimulation, electrodes implanted to manage Parkinson's disease or depression. Of course, looking at from a prima facie value, all these are very interesting things to develop human status, even sentient being status. And what about AI symbiosis? I think this is very popular in today's world. AI writing, human AI co-writing assistants, systems that anticipate human thought and augment creative or analytical work. As we understand, academics, uni students, we are all supposed to um, not to depend on these apps, but rather to search information. But information might be sometimes erratic, sometimes okay. So, but still, as a result of AI symbiosis, we embrace these co-writing assistants. And as you can see, the second one to be adaptive exoskeletons, robotic suits that sync with neural signals to amplify movements, and cognitive prosthetics, AI systems that help memory impaired individuals recall and organize information. Looks like AI symbiosis examples with regard to human virtue engineering could be very interesting with regard to how uh, cognition, planning, thinking, contemplations, reflections, morality can be existed within the modern era. And cryonics, this is about preserving the dead bodies, I mean, physically dead, but scientists, transhumanists are trying to think if they could preserve human bodies for many years, that, that they could hopefully perhaps revive, perhaps they can find out some of the breakthroughs, as you can see, cryopreservation of bodies or brains, um, and you can see what they are doing. And not even cryopreservation with regard to dead bodies, cryopreservation with regard to organ storage, preserving organs or embryos for long durations to overcome transplant time limits. So this is also another aspect of transhumanist activities of virtue engineering, because the effects are affecting virtues, morality. What is the possibility of keeping a dead body for 300, 400 years? And how does that affect virtues or morality given by the religions, philosophies, and all those teachings? And mind uploading, this is even more interesting. We see two aspects of mind uploading: whole brain emulsion, emulation, hypothetical future scenario where neural patterns are digitally scanned and simulated on a computer, and digital immortality projects, initiatives attempting to recreate personality through AI trained avatars based on one's memories, writings, and social media footprint. Now, the idea here is that when someone is physically going to pass away, um, is it possible to upload that person's consciousness into a sort of a cloud, such as how we understand this cloud experience in today's digital clouds? If person's brain activity can be monitored through MRI scanning or CT scanning or some other new test, is it possible for uh, because the same consciousness is actually working, if that, what is the possibility of putting that consciousness into a cloud and not accepting that the consciousness is actually going to another life, right? So this is also something very interesting with regard to virtues, because Buddhism accepts that when someone passes away, even that very passing away means the consciousness is departing from the body. So that's a huge argument to the virtues with regard to what will happen to someone when someone is passing away. If any sentient being is to pass away, the idea is that consciousness has to leave. So, uh, so the idea of mind uploading could be another breakthrough if it is going to work, but we have arguments with regard to that. Uh, I mean, from Buddhist aspects. And then, okay, now we are coming into a very basic ethical question with regard to the promise of transhumanism. Now, if you can look at the lotus side of the scale, this could be the ethical side, and the other side could be the transhumanist side. Is it possible for us to balance out these two? I'm trying to get up to that kind of a scenario, not rejecting transhumanism, not rejecting moral engineering, virtue engineering. Is it possible for us to look at a certain balance out uh, level of transhumanism and Buddhist teachings? Okay, the first question that we would have to think is, what does it mean to be more than human? And transhumanism as a movement is not merely scientific; it's moral. It asks, should we enhance ourselves to what end? This is raised by uh, Uday and Pickle in their new research, which was published in this year. And from a Buddhist lens, this resembles the perennial tension between upadhi. It's a very interesting Pali word in Buddhist text, the clinging to conditioned existence, and nibbana, the release from it. Now, the question is, when transhumanism promises liberation through a circuitry, is it addressing the same kind of liberation the Buddha spoke of? That, I think this is the intersection that we have to discuss between these scientific advancements and how they can be related to the Buddhist thought. Now, Buddhist theory of upadhi means Buddhism understands that every sentient being carries five aggregates to be their core, regardless of cat, dog, human, God, whoever is carrying these five aggregates. What are the five aggregates? Form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. So, Buddhism recognizes that this is the core of any sentient being. Now, say for instance, someone passes away, that means the fifth aggregate is going to degenerate. At that point, it departs. At that point, the whole mind matter structure collapses. And upadhi means a clinging towards these five aggregates. So that is a distorted ethical level in Buddhism, virtue level in Buddhism with regard to handling the bodies, handling oneself. So now the argument here is that, is it the kind of a upadhi, clinging to conditioned existence, I mean, to the very core of those five aggregates, which transhumanism suggests us to accept? Okay, that is a question. Uh, at the same time, we know the ultimate goal of Buddhism is to release from the upadhi, or five aggregates, or upadhi, basically upadhi, because as we carry our very core five aggregates with regard to our body, we tend to cling to that structure. We tend to cling to that very core. This is my body, this is my feeling, this is my perception, this is my karma, this is my thought. You should not disturb me, and we create a certain selfhood. It's kind of a, it can be a digital selfhood, it can be a non-digital selfhood. So the problem is that when the transhumanists are creating these gadgets, these techno advancements, would those advancements create a certain kind of upadhi? That is a question. So, as you can see, when transhumanism promises liberation through circuitry, if even if the transhumanism is to say, no, don't worry, not even we are creating techno advancement gadgets or whatever the things, we also can approach some other ways to look at the liberation, nirvana. So then the follow-up question is it addressing the same kind of liberation which the Buddha spoke of? From enhancement to virtue engineering. Virtue engineering means boosting compassion. This is what they are doing. I would say these transhumanists. Boosting compassion, self-control via neurotech or drugs. The moral ideal could be perfectibility through biotech means there are risks bypassing moral cultivation for quick neurochemical fixes, which Olaru mentioned in his work. Buddhist ethics are teleological. That means Buddhist ethics are looking for soteriology in the broader sense. That means the Buddhist, whatever the Buddhist teaching that we are going to study, we might look at it from a provisional, compartmentalized aspect. But the overall idea of Buddhist ethics is to look for the liberation through wisdom. What liberation is this? Liberation from the defilements or maybe from existence, not just mere behavioral regulation, as Harvey puts. So then there is another critical question becomes manifesting here. Can we engineer morality or virtue, or must we still walk the path that refines it? My hypothetical point at this point, before I get to the conclusion, is that let us accept these transhumanist, what do you call, advancements, but we cannot believe that transhumanist approach, what do you call, the throughput, so much computational, so much information based activities are truly crossing the teleological liberative aspect of Buddhism, virtue ethics. But still, we have to look at it from a balanced perspective. That means there are very good things too. You go back again here. What is bad? I mean, if we create compassion, self-control via neurotech drugs, but the problem is what kind of drug is this? Perhaps what kind of neurotech is this particular activity? Will there be an addiction of people with regard to these drugs, these neurotechs, right? And then now I am showing you the basic and the most important virtue triad in Buddhism. What is that? The Buddhist ethical triad, which has virtue, sila, concentration, samadhi, wisdom, paññā. Sila, samadhi, paññā. Sila means virtue, and samadhi means concentration, and wisdom means paññā. You can see here, virtue arises only through their interdependence. That means Buddhism does not consider virtue as a standalone activity. You can see virtue leads to concentration, concentration leads to wisdom. Not that virtue alone brings someone into happiness or maybe enlightenment later on. Virtue leads to concentration, and concentration leads to wisdom. And all they are circle around, all they are supporting each other. Then now we have another problem here. If we only engineer virtue, sila, how can we expect that this transhumanist approach is going to really cover the Buddhist ethical perspective overall as a whole? If they only engineer virtue, is it possible to engineer concentration? Is it possible to engineer wisdom? That is a question. But at the moment, we are talking about virtue engineering. So then we have a direct challenge here, how to get to the what you call ultimate or higher level of Buddhist ethics only by engineering virtue. That means whatever the transhumanist approach that they are doing has to approach concentration and wisdom as well. All right, then I'm going to show you the functionality of virtue, concentration, and wisdom from an original text. This is a poster which I made some time ago. You can see that Buddhism teaches that if someone wants to be happy in his or her life, that person has to follow one particular path. You could say your spiritual journey or one particular path, which is called the Noble Eightfold Path, as you can see here. This path is also called as middle path. Why is it called middle path? It is called middle path because it is not working towards self modification and overindulgence. So these are extreme paths that one has to give away. Self modification means giving pain to the body for being happy. It's like hard working narrative in today's world. And on the other hand, overindulgence, giving so much material happiness towards the body. So these two are extremes according to Buddhist ethics with regard to following happiness and thereby attaining enlightenment. Now, if we look at it from philosophical aspect, self-modification means eternalism, and overindulgence means nihilism or annihilationism. So now, when someone who is following the Buddhist path, which is called the Noble Eightfold Path, now going to embark on this path. In embarking on this path, or in starting up, or maybe in moving on to this path, one has to start with some amount of wisdom. You can see wisdom relates to two path factors: right view and right intention. That means there's something very interesting happening here. Buddhism does not accept that virtue is the starting point of Buddhist ethics. Why? If the Noble Eightfold Path here refers to right view, right intention, which are, in other words, called wisdom. That means without wisdom, some amount of wisdom, one cannot embark on this path. So that means wisdom leads one to the virtue. As you can see, the next three are virtue: right speech, you can see here, right speech, right action, right living. So that means transhumanists have another challenge in addressing this part. Without some sort of basic wisdom, it might be difficult for someone to get to the virtue according to Buddhism. So how to create a wisdom pro, or maybe pro wisdom aspects of virtues, right? That is also very important. And then Buddhism teaches that from a basic wisdom which supports someone to practice right view, right intention, only the person can get into virtues. What are the virtues? Right speech, right action, right living. And when someone is having mindful right speech and right action, right living only, that person is able to move on to the concentration. So then we understand wisdom supports someone to go to virtue, virtue supports someone to go to concentration, and then somewhere here we understand the higher level of wisdom. We call it lofty wisdom. This is the highest level, which is not given exactly, but that is a ripple effect of this path. Now, going back to the very idea, moral virtue triad, now you can understand that if we are going to look at the Buddhist ethics, with regard to transhumanism approach, transhumanists have to look at these what you call feedback loopholes, or I would say these integrated practices, which is this integrated practice. So that means you cannot only engineer a certain part of the ethic to say that we can engineer ethics, right? So because Buddhism looks at ethics not as a standalone practice, but as an integrated practice. Ethics are connected to something else, that is connected to something else. So then, say for instance, wisdom creates virtue, virtue creates concentration. Now, I can give you a very simple example for this, uh, especially why ethics are preceded by wisdom. Now, according to Buddhism, Buddhists are supposed to practice five precepts. They are not supposed to kill, they are not supposed to steal, they are not supposed to sexually misbehave, they are not supposed to, what do you call, lie, they are not supposed to take food and beverages that are uh, clouding their mind. Now, think about a 3 months old baby with regard to the five precepts. A 3 months old baby cannot, doesn't know, I mean, no idea about killing, no idea of stealing, no idea about sexual misbehavior. Uh, Babies cannot lie, definitely, and no idea about food and beverages in that way. Now, according to a basic idea of virtue in Buddhism, even anybody can think about then a baby is more moral, more virtuous than an adult or somebody else who is older than the baby. But according to Buddhism, Buddhist ethics, no. Because Buddhist ethics reflect in a way that Buddha says that one avoids the bad side of the ethics without understanding why I am avoiding those things. Now, why I am not going to kill? It is because killing is a bad karma, and if killing happens, and I'm going to create lots of suffering towards other people. Baby doesn't have this understanding. So that's why you can understand that Buddhism believes that some sort of basic wisdom about why am I doing this virtue is necessary before getting to the virtue. That's why in the Noble Eightfold Path, there is this area called wisdom area, right view, right intention, that are prior to the normal ethics. Now, when we look at this Noble Eightfold Path, transhumanists have to have an idea how to engineer virtue. Because how do you engineer virtue without looking at this non-standalone structure, right? That means you have to create an integrated virtue engineering in that case, right? I think I have to. Okay, good. Feedback loop. Okay, so the other thing is that, as I said, all these are integrated, wisdom, virtue, concentration. So I would call it a feedback loop. You can see here, there's a Buddhist monk here, and then all these virtue aspects are interconnected. Together they form a feedback loop. Virtue supports concentration, concentration clarifies wisdom, wisdom deepens virtue. Then again, wisdom leads to virtue, virtue leads to concentration. This interdependence resists any shortcut model. You cannot simply install morality without cultivating understanding and mindfulness. Hence, virtue engineering that we know at the moment may alter behavior, but it lacks the context of liberation. So that's a very interesting remark. The question once again is, when transhumanism promises liberation through circuitry, is it addressing the same kind of liberation the Buddha spoke of? You can see here the photo here, transhumanist, the brain and all that, that kind of an enlightenment supposedly, and then the Buddhist enlightenment, which is happening through practicing that integrated practice. Now we are going to look at certain claims. Buddhist moral cultivation is holistic, so that we cannot see an equality between virtue and isolated moral enhancement. So moral virtue is not going to be equal to isolated moral enhancement. It cannot be. I mean, we are talking Buddhist virtue here, uh, along the lines of those integrated practices. Morality develops through discipline, awareness, and ethical motivation. Called morality means virtue once again. That is the Buddhist way. Neuroenhancement may simulate virtue, not generate it. So simulation versus generation could be two different things. That's why a Pali quote in the Dhammapada, the handbook of Buddhists, is giving us this understanding. Attanang Damayanti Pandita, DHP 80, the wise people train themselves. So that means training part is cannot be a generation for the most individuals in Buddhism. So wise people, they train, they discipline, they take care of their thoughts, they take care of their bodily actions, they take care of their speech. So there is a certain uh, setback to these neuro enhancements with regard to whether neuro enhancements in transhumanism really covering the depth, the breadth and depth of the uh, Buddhist ethics. So, Buddhist virtue cultivation or moral cultivation is very much holistic, going beyond that. But again, there's another very big issue over here. The biggest issue here is that Buddhism believes that in order for any virtue to what do you call work, uh, it has to start with right view. You can see here in this photo, Samādhi, right view is the root level. It's actually below the tree's normal level. So from right view, the rest of the things are arising. Even you can see some other concepts here. The second noble path factor, Samma Sankappa, ethical intention, right intention, wise attention, Yonaso Manasikara, and right mindfulness. So in Buddhism, virtue arises from right view, Samadhi. Why is it? Can we go back to this? Yeah. So if we say that these are the virtues, these virtues cannot arise without right view, right? This is the starting point. So here, uh, the clear understanding that guides perception, intention, and action. Without it, moral discipline or virtue becomes mechanical. A device might suppress anger, but without right view, its roots persist, reappearing as pride or indifference. True virtue begins with seeing rightly. So I want to highlight here right view is the most important thing in Buddhism. For other virtue or maybe concentration, wisdom paths to arise gradually. So virtue engineering must be rooted in right view at that. In this case, I mean, if virtue engineering is going to be the main way to look at virtues in the future, as of now, they have to look at whether our techno enhancements, transhumanist things such as AI stuff, are rooted in parallel to right view points. Of right view means Buddhism believes and Buddhism teaches that every human being must have right view if they want to follow Buddhism. Buddhism is a lifestyle, it's not a religion or philosophy in the highest sense. So, if they have right view, the rest of the things, speech, actions, living, mindfulness, concentration, they all are going to be naturally holistic. So, the question here is that if virtue technology or moral technology, virtue engineering, moral engineering, going to follow their path without considering about right view, then at that point, uh, it might not create the desired aspects of what Buddhist ethics are all about. The self as process, not substance. Now, this is another aspect to look at virtue engineering. Now, in Buddhism, Buddhism suggests two layers of self. One is self, the other one being the not self. I think I will stop sharing for a moment and discuss this a little bit more. There is a huge misunderstanding with regard to Buddhist understanding about self. A lot of books have translated self to be self, according to Buddhism, to be non-self. Anatta means non-self. Actually, Buddhism accepts a self uh, at the conventional level. Self exists, but it is not permanent. So we call it ATTA, Atta. And but even this self that is changing, dynamic, and fleeting cannot be taken as self in the long run, which is called as anatta, not self. Now, this transhumanist approach or these transhumanist techno enhancements are again going through a setback with regard to this self concept. Now, they initially went through one of the biggest problems in Buddhism. One is, can you engineer ethics because of virtue? It is because virtue cannot be a standalone practice. That is one issue. On the other hand, they are going through the problem which is called uh, how are you going to keep virtue as a digitally made selfhood kind of a thing, because when you create a certain gadget or certain software, certain implant, at that point that particular uh, gadget tool can create a certain selfhood, digital selfhood. Now Buddhism talks about something against the selfhood. No self is existing uh, continuously. Self is a moment of understanding, but self is not existing permanently. It's impermanent. So this is the second uh, ethical issue that transhumanists are going through. This is what we are discussing at the moment. So I'm going to again share my screen to show you the slides. See, okay. Yes. I hope you can see my screen again. Yes. Okay. All right. Um, what is self in Buddhism? Dynamic psychophysical process. Nama Rupa. Nama means mind. Rupa means matter. Transhumanism, digital personhood, digital selfhood assumes a fixed uploadable self. Do you believe that? Now, if they say we can upload our mind before we die, or if we can do something like that, at that point, what could happen is that there is some sort of encouragement to believe that the physically dead person's consciousness, according to us, is everlasting. So then that means this could be a sort of doctrinal problem with regard to engineering ethics in Buddhism, right? So then transhumanists have to definitely look at this aspect too. So then again, the other aspect to look at is that stream of consciousness is not going to be equal to data continuity, because stream of consciousness, according to Buddhism, is always impermanent, and that is a fluid process, and you cannot make it equal to data continuity, because data continuity could be throughput, but the stream of consciousness uh, is flowing with a lot of changes. So then, self as a process, uh, called the changing self, is a process, um, and we cannot even take it as self at a certain point, and we cannot take it as a substance, as a computational activity. It's like what transhumanists are doing. And then another problem is karma. Now we'll be talking couple problems. One is, let's go back to the first problem. The first one was integrated aspect of moral virtue triad was a problem. And then the second was digital personhood, how to upload a self if self is changing. Third problem is karma. Now Buddhism believes that every intentional volitional activity is a karma. So in Buddhism, we don't believe fate or gene in that perspective, because everyone is carrying their own karma, but those karmas are also being changed. They also go through the process of change, impermanence. So that means Buddhism teaches a transformation, plasticity, I would say. It's a plasticity, it's a transformation beyond biology. Because if transhumanists are to pick up this idea from a point of view that we can do it in a way that we will use a certain unchanging self, then that will go against karma concept. So the Buddhist karma perspective aligns with epigenetic plasticity. And what is epigenetic plasticity? Environmental and mental laws which modulate expression. Now think about we are reborn according to Buddhism, and depending on where I am living now, and the people who I am associating with, my karma, my situation, life situation can become changed. So that means Buddhism believes that there is no something called a genetic determinism, DNA determinism. Buddhism believes epigenetic plasticity because through our behaviors, actions, we can change us. So now this idea, another scientific idea here, epigenetic plasticity, can also, along with karma perspective, create some kind of tension between transhumanist idea of uploading the self and looking at these things. This is another thing to think about. And then, following to that, not just genes, the Dharma is in our design. That means Buddhism believes that our design is Dharma. You can see the lotus in the photo, and it is going beyond any kind of spiral or any kind of structural design that the genes can make us. That means Buddhism believes that we may come from epigenetic, we may come from genetic aspects. We may have our own genes, but we can change our genes through our behaviors. So, in that sense, if transhumanists are to make a certain unchanging transhumanist tool or software or something, how are they going to address epigenetic plasticity, transformation that a sentient being, human being, whoever, and even an animal can change, right? Because they have to address that plasticity aspect as well. As you can see here, modern science, particularly epigenetics, resonates with this. Environmental and mental conditions influence gene expression. So both Buddhism and science acknowledge plasticity, the possibility of transformation. Buddhism is all about transformation. Buddhism is not that you're going to be somebody that you want to be. That by practicing Buddhism as a lifestyle, a way of life, one is going to be transforming into the better version of that person. That's the core idea. But while science sees this as biological adaptability, Buddhism interprets it as ethical agency. We are not prisoners of our DNA or past. We are participants in a dynamic moral evolution. Our moral evolution is dynamic. It's not static. This perspective grounds human dignity in responsibility, not in biological design. Then again, transhumanists have to look at their what you call tool creations, software creations, implant creations with regard to how we can address epigenetic aspects of science. This is another area of science, and also the Buddhist idea of epigenetics aspect, and we can transcend our genes. Genes are not always static. That the same gene, we can change our gene. Right? Now, I can give you a rough example for that. Think about someone is born with a sort of cognitively dysfunctional issue in this life. It could be a karma, it could not be a karma. Let's say it was to be taken as karma. So Buddhism suggests then if you do more good karma with regard to supporting other people who are going through the same problem, if you become a better person in the next life, you are not carrying that gene. It as a gene. You are not carrying it as a existential defect into the next life. That means Buddhism does not believe that there is a certain static eternal gene that is going from this life to the next life in the rebirth concept. Buddhism believes we can modify. So then, why don't transhumanists understand this point and think, yes, genes can be modified, engineered, but that engineering has to be inclusive, because Buddhists believe that there are certain epigenetics that can involve in changing, going beyond as a technical enhancement, techno enhancement. And this perspective grounds human dignity in responsibility. That means, how are we? That means, as human beings, sentient beings, we can be our own transhumanists by understanding our responsibility. Responsibility means our own karma. If I know that this is not good, morally good, this is not a good virtue, to kill other people, to take what is not mine, to engage in sexual misbehavior, not to lie, not to take food and beverages to an extent that I cloud my mind. So when I think that these are not only virtues, these are my responsibilities, then I can modify my genes. If I am going through problems with regard to engaging in those vices in a past life as of now, then I can change at the very least my rest of my life here and according to Buddhism. Next slide. But anyway, this is another aspect transhumanists should consider. Buddhist critique of genetic determinism. Just now I shared with you that Buddhism denies any genetic determinism. Why? Buddhism rejects moral essentialism. What is it? Moral qualities slash virtues have fixed intrinsic essences. Do we believe this kind of an idea? No. Buddhism does not believe moral essentialism, because my compassion will be different from somebody else's compassion, and your compassion, your kindness may be different from my kindness. Your altruism might be different from my altruism. But just because we have a true nature of true intrinsic level of compassion, kindness, does it mean that kindness is morally, kindness, compassion, and those qualities are carrying moral essentials? No. We are differently good. Even the bad people, if they are engaging in bad activities, immoral activities, evil activities, they are immorally different, or they are differently bad. So that's why Buddhism clearly denies any genetic determinism, which could be the desideratum of certain transhumanist activities as of now. And then there is no good genome or bad evil genome. Moral value is relational, arising from right view, Samādhi, and the cultivation of the other noble path factors. Now, can you understand this part? Good genome and bad genome. What does it mean? That means if transhumanists are to make a certain good genome, then they can advertise this as, okay, if anybody can have this good genome, you will be good. Buddhism is against this idea, because Buddhism believes virtue or moral value, moral value is relational. That arises from right view. And let's say I had right view in my past life, And when I'm born here, reborn here again, I might have it, but it does not guarantee if I don't practice it, cultivate it. So that's why Buddhism is against more genetic determinism, and this genetic determinism is not what Buddhism talks about. So that means transhumanists have to look at how does uh, Buddhism look at morality, virtue with regard to generational aspects or genetic aspect. And for more information, why there are issues with regard to genetic determinism, it externalizes ethics, locating morality in the body rather than the mind. Right now, let's say transhumanists are to say that we can create a good gene rather than modifying the gene. If they can say that uh, we can create a good gene, at that point they are more focusing on the body to talk about the virtue rather than the mind. And it also legitimizes inequality, implying that some are born better. Now think about, if transhumanist advancements about genetic good genes and so forth going to be very much valuable, at that point only the certain wealthy rich people can buy these stuff. On the other hand, someone also can create an argument that some people are born better, right? So this disparity with regard to life could happen too. They have to address that too. So Buddhism conversely begins with potential. Beings are heirs to their deeds. Deeds mean karma. This means liberation is open to all, regardless of biology. Then we are coming down to the problem according to what Buddhism sees in this whole universe. Buddhism understands that dukkha prevails everywhere. Dukkha means pain, uh, for some people suffering. Normally I introduce dukkha to be pain because pain is inevitable while suffering is optional. But there are certain situations we might find suffering all the way. But for the most part of dukkha, dukkha is pain. Let us look at dukkha through transhumanism. Now, transhumanists are promising to end inherent pain, sankhara dukkha. Now, Buddhism identifies three types of dukkha. One is dukkha dukkhata, that means direct pain. When I'm wounded, when I have a direct pain, I feel it. That's called dukkha dukkha, dukkha dukkhata. Second, viparinama dukkhata, pain arising from not being able to understand changes in our life, a loss of a loved one, maybe the demotion from a job, criticism, right? So changes, right? There could be a pain or suffering at a certain point. And then the third one is sankhara dukkha. That means sankhara dukkha or sankhara dukkha, inherent pain. What is inherent pain, which transhumanists are trying to solve? Inherent pain means things like aging, getting sick, and the death. These are inevitable, inherent pain which everyone goes through, regardless of religions, philosophies, countries. So transhumanists are promising that they could do something to avoid, at least to minimize, which is a good idea. We don't want anybody to suffer. We don't want anybody to go through pain. But it has to be achieved through some sort of uh, practical, and then the real ways which, if they are talking Buddhism, in the Buddhist ways as well. You have to look at Buddhist aspects of sankhara dukkha. Because what we can say is that dukkha is never equal to mere pain. You can see here I have put it. Dukkha is never equal. There is pain. It is more about existential unsatisfactoriness. Now think about, I am giving a talk here for almost hour and a half, and then if I continue to sit here for 2-3 hours, I might feel very uncomfortable because why I'm sitting here for 2 hours, and this is not pain. It could be sometimes an unsatisfactoriness that I'm having here. So Maybe at that point, I might change my position, I might change my posture, I might change what do you call the activity that I'm engaging with. So that means dukkha is not always mere pain, it is an existential unsatisfactoriness. And then eliminating pain is not equal to eliminating craving or ego. This is very interesting. Now, transhumanists have to look at this because they look at it this way. Okay, now somebody is going through a knee pain, so we are going to create a certain implant, we're going to create a certain painkiller, we're going to create a certain activity with regard to minimizing that pain. But Buddhism believes that why is that person going through the knee pain? It is not only because that pain happens in that person's body. It is also it is also because that person is going through sankhara dukkata. This one, I would say. So sankhara dukkata means it is because that person is going through that pain, not because that person has a problem with regard to knees, but because that person is going through inherent pain, unsatisfactoriness, because that person is already reborn as a result of not being able to become an enlightened person in Buddhism. So that's why transhumanists have to also look at, uh, they have to redefine eliminating pain is not equal to eliminating craving, because perhaps they can think about how to eliminate craving and ignorance, right? So that's more about teleological, soteriological. So this is what we can see here. And moving on, this is a very interesting. Um, it's a very interesting slide. Singularity is not equal to nibbana. I don't know whether how many of you have learned about singularity. Now, singularity here means it is a. You can see the photo here is a black hole. This is a concept in astrophysics. The black hole. Normally, in astrophysics, a black hole is the final collapse of a massive star. Its gravity becomes so intense that nothing, not even light, can escape its event horizon. Inside the black hole lies the singularity. What does it mean? A point of infinite density where the known laws of physics break down. So it is the ultimate paradox of knowledge, a space where data becomes infinite but understanding ceases. Now, this is what I'm saying. This transhumanist approach can get into the black hole idea in astrophysics. What can happen is that too much information will pop up, and the understanding about and why there are so much information could cease. Now that scientific singularity provides a striking metaphor for the technological singularity, the projected moment when artificial intelligence or transhumanist intelligence surpasses human cognition and accelerates beyond our control. Both represent an implosion of complexity, a point where acceleration becomes self consuming. But what we need to understand is that Buddhist approach to understanding information is going to be true liberation, true cessation. It is not just true augmentation, true amplification. Because otherwise, someone can think about that. We have so much information here now on internet. So then why can't we attain enlightenment? No, enlightenment is not attain through information only. Enlightenment or even happiness in normal life is to be achieved through transformation. So if I'm to read here, singularity is equal, this black hole idea is equal to computational explosion. The technological singularity envisions a future where AI surpasses human cognition. But cognitive speed is not the same as wisdom. That's an interesting claim. We understand the computational aspect of cognitive speed, that we are now searching information online, is not the same as wisdom. Because Buddhism believes that wisdom is not primarily achieved through information. So then that means transhumanists have to redefine, if they want to really concern about the Buddhist ways too, how can someone understand transformation, happiness, enlightenment, when there is so much, when there is information on the side of cognitive speed, how can speed uh, not to be taken as the only thing to look for the transformation, look for the wisdom? Because Buddhism's goal, nibbana, enlightenment, is not computational efficiency, but cessation of greed, lobha, hatred, dosa, and delusion, moha. Thereby, one expands data, the other extinguishes craving. Now, here in most of the transhumanist techno advancements we see here at the moment, they are only expanding, they are multiplying data aspect only. But Buddhist way to look at the same very issues are really going through an extinguishment, blowing out of the craving. So this is what I given here as a black hole, as a singularity, computational explosion, versus flame going out means nibbana, enlightenment here. More information. And AI, artificial intelligence, which we understand through transhumanism, may know every sutta. What is sutta? Discourse. Now, Buddhism has many suttas, almost, I would say, thousand Buddhist discourses given by the Buddha. AI can give us the contents of these suttas, discourses, but without intention or awareness, it remains an echo chamber of concept. So then, right view, right intention, or whatever other noble path factors, without their support, such information will be limited, confined to echo chambers of concept. Thus, singularity, which means computational explosion, increases processing power, but nibbana, enlightenment in Buddhism, dissolves the processor itself, the egoic grasping that interprets experience as mine. Now, looking at from a larger broad perspective, one transcends by acceleration, which is the transhumanist approaches, and the Buddhist approach is to teach the followers, people, to transcend by relinquishing. It's not that how much information you have to hold up in terms of enlightenment. All right, what are the ethical risks? I'm going to pick up Uday and Pickle's thoughts. One is inequality. Is it possible for us to see compassion and innovation at the same time while looking at those doctrinal problems with regard to transhumanism, which I discussed so far? On the other hand, is it possible for us to balance out these innovations, transhumanist approaches, which I even suggest at the end as Cyborg Sīla, and compassion together in the same scale? So, in order to do that dialogue, we have couple risks. One is inequality. What is inequality? The path of enhancement is paved with new inequalities. Who can afford these moral upgrades? Would the unenhanced be seen as morally inferior? Some time ago, we understood that if it is about stem cell therapy, this is one of the therapies used to anti-aging. Only rich elite people can buy this. So if these gadgets are improved as innovations, some are already existing in some places, some countries, are they creating a sort of inequality? So how do transhumanists address this part? right? Because inequality is not a good idea in Buddhism. Buddhist aspects are already talking about not to create division in the society, to create an equal, equitable society. So this is one issue. Why are we creating one group, maybe unaffordable group, to be morally inferior at that point? Could it be? Second, coercion. Beyond inequality lies coercion in comparative societies. Refusing enhancement may become a moral or economic liability. Imagine being told, install the empathy chip or lose your teaching license. I think that's a very interesting point, right? Think about, as academicians here, philosophy academics across the country, Philippines or maybe elsewhere. If transhumanists found out a certain virtue engineering with regard to the philosophy fundamentals, and now if the country universities are saying, if you are an academic, you must install this in your brain or whatever. So I think not many people might like it in the first place, definitely. So then, what if those organizations are trying to tell us, say, we have to do it, you gotta do it, because this is a procedure. If you want to survive as an academic, you must get it done in your body. So I think there is enormous amount of forcing, coercion. I don't think it's a good idea. It's not ethically good to force people to, accept those things. The third risk is loss of agency. As algorithms learn our preferences, we risk outsourcing our moral decision making. Why? This is also an issue. We don't have to outsource our moral decision making. We might feel good, but not uh, choose to be good. The outsourcing concept with regard to today's world, uh, there are big companies, they are doing their business, but they want to bring the customer care section to another country, so they pay less compared to how they pay to their own people in their country, and then this is outsourcing. And what if that we do the same thing? We are outsourcing our cognition, moral decisions, and all that into these chips and gadgets. So I think we may lose our agency in a way, right? The fourth issue is a very interesting one: principle ahimsa, precautionary one, non-harm policies. Here, the Buddhist principle of ahimsa, non-harm, calls for precautionary ethics. Technological progress must be guided by compassion, not control. Okay, that means not even we are supposed to be harmless to others, but also we have to be harmless to ourselves. So there must be compassion. Why are we outsourcing? Why are we trying to be kind of harmful if we don't understand what's happening? If we are bringing up these techno enhancement through transhumanism without feeling that transhumanism has clearly addressed the morality in some sort of context, then what we are doing in hindsight is that we are becoming not compassionate towards our bodies. So then there is a sort of um, veering off from the ahimsa concept as well, compassion. The Buddhist virtue ethical lens, as you can see, is the Noble Eightfold Path: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wisdom. This means the Noble Eightfold Path once again. This emphasizes intentional cultivation over external modification. You can see all these transhumanist gadgets, tools, implants, they are looking at external modification, which is not bad. I mean, definitely they are a good thing. This is what I'm going to come at the end. But overall, what they are doing is external modification rather than intentional cultivation. Furthermore, right now we know Buddhism always highlights, places an emphasis about right view. Right view means, do I have the right attitude with regard to anything? Right here means virtuous, moral, holistic attitude. Now think about, this is a very interesting issue in any scenario. If I don't have the right political views, I would say, if I don't have a holistic political view, rather than getting caught up in right, left, conservatives, liberals, then what will happen? I will be stuck in one aspect. Rather than I see it going beyond these ideas and finding some holistic approaches, some well-being towards the country. So that is also coming from right view. So that's why right view should be considered by transhumanists in making their those things. So right view guards. What can these noble path factors do to protect, to create certain immunity with regard to these issues? Right view guards against delusion of omnipotence. Why do I call omnipotence? Omnipotence means that someone is what you call someone is what you call powerful, and then what you call knowing. Someone is present everywhere. If the knowledge that we learn through transhumanism is becoming omnipotent, that could deter, that could stop, that could disturb our right view perspective. So right view helps us to think that no, no, no. I mean, we have to go beyond omnipotence, because virtue aspects are in transformative. They are transformative practices. So that's why we have to look at right view. And right intention, being the second noble path factor, aligns innovation with compassion. Whatever the implants, those gadgets, techno gadgets they are making, they have to be compassion based. Right living questions exploitative industries. Sometimes these gadgets can exploit certain industries, creating some gap between rich and the poor. So that means the transhumanists have to look at right living Sama Ajiva perspectives in the Noble Eightfold Path in creating these gadgets and all that. And right mindfulness keeps awareness from fragmenting in digital noise. Now, when we understand right mindfulness, which helps us to speak mindfully, to act mindfully, think mindfully, that helps us um, how to understand what is happening around beyond us. So now you can see these, not even these four, the rest of the four in the Noble Eightfold Path are fine teachings for transhumanists to consider in their activities. And the middle way in the age of machines. You know, as I said earlier in my Noble Eightfold Path slide, Buddhism looks at morality, virtue, between moral absolutism. I think most of you who are coming from philosophy background, you might understand moral absolutism and moral relativism. So Buddhism says their Noble Eightfold Path lies between self-modification and then overindulgence in the photo poster before. But now we can also add this Noble Eightfold Path lies between moral absolutism and moral relativism. Moral absolutism means the idea that certain moral principles are unchanging. Buddhism does not believe that. They all are dynamic. And moral relativism means moral judgments depend on cultural, historical, personal context. Yes, it can happen, but Buddhism try to be in between. Applied today, it is the middle way between blind faith in technology and cynical rejection of. I think you may have noticed there are people who are very much blinded by the technology and who are very much opposing technology. Actually, Buddhist aspect is neither of them. Buddhism understands the importance of technology, definitely about transhumanism, and Buddhism wants to bring a sort of harmony between these two extreme ideas. Thus, the moral question is not should we enhance humanity, but what kind of humanity are we enhancing now? That is the question that we have. You can see here the Buddhist monk whose aura is illuminating here on this side, transhumanism, on the other side, uh, typical meditation scenario somewhere in the forest. You can see that how this kind of enlightenment, this kind of happiness should pervade around the world. Okay, this is my main conclusion. So we are almost at the level of conclusion. You know, I brought up this topic to be talking about the Cyborg Sīla. Now think about this robot here, right? And the real Buddhist monk. Okay. So here emerges the idea of Cyborg Sīla. Now Sīla means virtue. The Pali word for virtue is Sīla. I could write here. Yes. So the disciplined ethical integration of technology within the path of self-cultivation. Now I'm going to show you, teach you a very interesting Buddhist concept that was given under Mahayana Buddhism. So Buddhism has couple sections: Early Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, Tibet or Vajrayana Buddhism. The concept of upaya here, upaya means skillful means. That means when practicing virtue in Buddhism or any other good quality mental state, it is said that we have to follow skillful means. That means we have to be smart, wise in practicing precept. Otherwise, certain problems will be availing for us. So that's why skillful means are very necessary to understand transhumanist activities. I have examples. Meditation apps fostering attention, which is a very good idea. AI aiding accessibility for the disabled. It's a very good idea. Digital archives preserving suttas. As you can see, Sutta Central, access to insider, lots of websites for Buddhist suttas. Biofeedback, HRV, EEG, EMG, GSR supporting mental training. What are they? Let's take a look. Biofeedback means feeding biological information back to the person, usually through a device or app. The feedback can come in visually, auditory, or tactile forms. Example, a graph showing your heart rate changing as you breathe, a tone that lowers in pitch when your muscles relax, a light that dims when your mind calms. It's something like this, right? So this gentleman seems to be having some gadgets like that: EEG, HRV, GSR, EMG. Now sensors are attached to the body. You can see skin, head, or fingers. The device measures signals such as heart rate variability and some other things. The HRV relates to stress and calm. EEG relates to brain waves linked to attention and relaxation. EMG relates to muscle tension. And GSR relates to perspiration as a sign of emotional arousal. Definitely, these are very interesting breakthroughs from biofeedback. Okay. So when we look at the things, these devices, HRV, EEG, EMG, GSR, it looks to be a kind of cyborg Sīla perspective for those people who have a hard time in understanding their virtue. At least there is some kind of support. The danger arises only when tools replace inner transformation. Yes, there are dangers too, but we look at the positive side here. So Cyborg Sīla proposes use technology with mindfulness, not not as mindfulness. Why do I say so? I think that's a very interesting claim. Use these gadgets technology with mindfulness, mindfully use them, but not as mind. So when you say, okay, this EEG or whatever other gadgets are mindfulness, then you are not going to pay attention to what's happening. But if you are very mindful about what's happening with regard to gadgets, that could be a good way to use this. So we can create a certain idea about the Buddha here. Monks develop not the machine that watches the breath, but the mind that knows the watcher. Once again, monks develop not the machine that watches the breath, but the mind that knows the watcher. This is not something Buddha did say, but I'm going to rephrase what if the Buddha is to look at this cyborg idea with regard to Buddhist teachings? Because Buddhism, because Buddha talks about the second part, definitely, but not the first part. Mind that knows the watcher. If we have a mind that knows the watcher, that will be the greatest way to look at what is happening in the body. Global and policy implications are also necessary. Need for international ethics and dialogue on enhancement justice, ethical reflection today. must move beyond personal morality to global governance. There are needs promoting virtue-centered design, encouraging developers to embed compassion, non-harm, and fairness into algorithmic system. Some have been happening, but not enough. Finally, promote digital mindfulness literacy, educating citizens, especially youth, to engage technology with awareness. These are also necessary, going beyond transhumanist activities. That means we need a global policy. We need global policies with regard to social media apps and some other things that we are at the moment using. Certain policy implications. My last slide. Buddhist ethics are equal with cultivation of inner technologies of virtue. Okay, that's pretty clear, crystal clear over here. That means whatever the Buddhist ethics, be that mindful speech, mindful action, right mindfulness, right view, they all are reflective and resembling with cultivation of inner technologies of virtue. Number two, true transcendence is equal to freedom from craving, not augmentation of control. We cannot control uh, the augmentation part, expansion of information for this transcendence. The cyborg may extend life, but only wisdom ends dukkha. While we are respecting, embracing, happily looking at cyborg, but we should not depend on that in that way. We know it can extend life as a cryopreservation, but only Paññā, wisdom in Buddhism, can end dukkha. So my reflection before we go to the final understanding about this is ceasing dukkha, dissatisfaction, is not a throughput issue. Throughput means what you call efficiency part. It's not by being efficient that one can come to this point. Only this word called throughput is a term from computer science and engineering. It means how much data or work a system can process per unit of time, essentially speed and efficiency. So no matter how fast a brain or machine can think, it cannot compute liberation. It will never compute liberation. You can accelerate cognition, but not awaken wisdom through processing power. So this is what I wanted to say, and I will come to the references. You can see the references. Maybe I can share this the presentation later on with the doctor. My closing reflection. May all beings, human, post-human, and even machine-bound, be guided by compassion rather than craving, by clarity rather than control, and may the evolution we pursue be the evolution of the heart. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you, everybody. And I hope now we will be able to get to any Q&A if there are questions. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us, Dr. Chandima Gangodawila. He is speaking now directly from the Department of Philosophy at Ateneo de Manila University. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Gangodawila. That was a very thought provoking lecture. I really learned a lot. So now we will open the floor for questions and reflections from our audience.
It's a specific one. So let me now bring back Dr. Chandima to the stage. All right.
Yes.
Here's Dr. Chandima once again. So Dr. Chandima, hello. Thank you once again. No,
Yes.
and we
Would
have
you like
some.
me to read the questions and answer, or would you read from
Yes,
the
I will be the one reading the
Okay,
question,
please.
Sir
Yes.
Kandima.
Yes.
So the first question we have is from Mr. Bondika. In the impermanence understanding of not self, how can we understand the accountability of a person in the Buddhist ethics perspective?
Okay. I think I answered about. Uh, I address about self and not self. That means Buddhism does not only accept that there is not self only. Buddhism also accept that there is a changing self. So that when there is, oh, nice, I can see now in the screen. So that means uh, when we know that Buddhism accepts that there is a changing self, not an unchanging self. So I think this problem is solved. That means if there is a changing self, the person is existing, living with dynamics. So then accountability really is stayed to that person. Now I'm talking to you. If I understand that I'm talking to you at 11:29 minute at this point, but I might be the different person at 11:30. But it does not preclude me in taking the responsibility of maybe accountability of what I'm doing now. So if you understand that there is a self that is changing versus not self, that they both are concepts in Buddhism, then there is no problem with regard to accountability.
All right.
Yeah.
I think there's a follow-up question. Therese, can you please?
Okay, thank you
Can
so
we
much, sir. So the second question is, can we also categorize the presence of meta-human as part of the Buddhist understanding of not self?
can we categorize the presence of meta-human as part of the Buddhist understanding of uh, not self? The problem is we cannot find out the presence of meta-human in this understanding, because if the self is always changing, how to create a meta-human nature, right? So it is impossible to create a meta-human nature, because we are, according to Buddhism, sentient beings, and we are changing every nanosecond, even a fraction of the nanosecond. So it's hard to even accept the meta-human nature. As I said, if you want to look at the core of the sentient beings, not even human, that is the five aggregates. All the Even though the five aggregates are core in a sense, they are also changing all the time. So it's difficult to say that. Now you're asking, can we also categorize the presence of meta-human as part of the Buddhist? Yes, yes. I mean, but the problem is there is no meta-human nature rather than the changing five aggregates. But finally, they all go down to the not self nature. That means there's no self. Even the conventional self is going to be disrupted in that sense.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Chandima.
Was
Thank
So
you,
maybe,
this?
sir.
but we would like to remind the audience that even if you already have posted your questions in the YouTube comment section, you could do a follow-up. You could just interact with us, comment once more, in our comment section, so that we could read your follow-ups, to Dr. Chandima. Right?
All right, thank you. The next question we have, can a consciousness uploaded to a machine achieve enlightenment, or is liberation limited to biological sentient beings?
Okay. Can a consciousness uploaded to a machine achieve enlightenment? That is an ongoing activity that the scientists are transhumanists are doing, trying. You're asking, is it possible? um, let's say transhumanism wise, they think that they could take mind into a certain physical nature, meta nature. They believe that they could, but Buddhism believes that that is not the mind that is leaving the body. When someone passes away, consciousness leaves, but the mind that MRI machine can see uh, is what they are trying to focus on. When someone goes to a MRI test, uh, they can see the brain waves and all that. But Buddhism believes that death itself means the consciousness departed the body. So there are issues. If you ask me, is it possible from Buddhist perspective? It might not be possible. That is one thing. Second, can a consciousness upload to a machine achieve? Yeah, I mean, the scientists, transhumanists think that if they could take that MRI kind of mind into a cloud, they could simulate enlightenment. They could, but they are still trying that. Or is liberation limited to biological sentient uh, being? This is the commonplace. This is what we know already. This is what we are saying. Liberation is only for sentient beings, but this is a certain movement, certain area that transhumanists are trying to think. I don't want to give any hypothesis to disturb anybody's research, but rather what I can say is that it might be impossible, but if you watch all these presentation slides, what I was trying to say is that I was not trying to say that transhumanism is bad. It's a futile effort. What I was trying to say is that transhumanism could have picked up these areas to make it more sensible, right? So in that case, they have a good opportunity to hit this first area. If they could make it, then they can even simulate sort of enlightenment. But the problem is that the enlightenment that the Buddhism is talking about? That is another area to think about, because enlightenment does not go through the singularity, computational explosion. It goes beyond information. It goes beyond those black hole idea. So there are issues, but we will see what they can get up to in their research.
Okay, thank you for that. I think there's a follow-up question, Therese, no? From the same person, so from John. So I don't know if,
Oh,
yeah, that's
okay. Yes, sir. So another question from John Zachary. In terms of dukkha, if something has the ability to suffer, then is it safe to say that they are alive?
In the terms of dukkha, if something has the ability to suffer, then it is safe to say they are alive. Well, I mean, there is nobody who is not existing is to suffer, right? So everyone who is only alive is to suffer. I don't think it's suffering. Go through the dissatisfaction, pain. That means now I think what we can connect is that think about a simulated meta kind of human that the scientists transhumanists are making. Is that person going through dukkha, right? This is what we can think about. Other than that, uh, if the being is not alive, according to what we understand through Buddhism, then at that point you cannot say uh, that there is no suffering, there is no pain, there is no dissatisfaction. So only the people who are alive are to go through dukkha, not others. Because Buddhism believes that dukkha is a feeling, or the very core of every sentient being is five aggregates, wherein which we find feeling. Okay, next.
okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Okay, so we have another question actually from Miss Lady Queen Arisgado. So she's asking, how can Buddhist ethics remind innovators to act with compassion when creating new technologies?
Okay, this was something we discussed in the slide. Uh, Compassion with regard to um, transhumanist advancements uh, uh, have been already um, reflective. Now think about retinal implants and then many other neural implants. I think these transhumanists have already looked at uh, compassion aspects, but they have to say that they have to show that we cannot replace the real compassion with these gadgets. These are supportives. So what we can do, what I mean, governments or maybe policymaking institutions or maybe any monitoring institutions of the country with regard to these transhumanist activities can uh, remind them in a way that when you are creating these innovations, try to look for the greater good of the society. I mean, not creating any gap. Perhaps uh, one very good thing we discussed was the affordability, right? Now, transhumanists can create a very expensive thing like stem cells therapy for anti-aging. Not anybody can buy. Maybe $200,000, $300,000 for one treatment in certain countries. So maybe they can the relevant bodies can suggest that if you want to make it something like that, can you make it more affordable to be compassionate to everybody? Can you create certain innovations through your transhumanist activities to support, maybe to combat poverty, maybe to combat corruption, maybe to combat not even the biological limitations, but also certain social implications that we are going through in today's world. Uh, Otherwise, if you are only touching the existential suffering part, you will only cover, you will only support problems of certain high class, very rich, elite people. So make it more affordable is one thing, and also try to look at it going beyond the existential suffering. Maybe you can also uh, think more about mental health issues nowadays. That is a very big issue, being not able to understand rejection, being able to understand their own depression, stress. I think they could perhaps work on certain areas that they have never worked on, maybe. Because they have only worked on anti-aging, anti-dying, and all these perspectives. Why? I mean, we discuss biofeedback aspects, but they can maybe create more aspects for mental health uh, perspectives too. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. I am loving this very engaging discussion that we're having right now. And we're on to the last question for today, this morning. So we have a question from Reniel Reyes. My question is related to your discussion on plasticity of science and Buddhism. How will neurodivergent children or people with special needs go beyond their DNA past?
Uh, that's what we've been discussing as the setback over there. Now we know uh, neurodivergent children, they have special needs. So that means they are supposed to be benefited from genetic engineering more than how we are supposed to be benefited from those things. Now, think about if the scientists could understand that there is a baby, there's an embryo, fetus, going to be having some genetic distortions. If they could do a certain genetic modification before the fetus or embryo is going to be fully grown, I think then that child, those parents, they are going to have a good time. So definitely, transhumanist activities are already working on this side. I hope that these treatments could be very affordable, not too expensive to people. Uh, uh, so, as you ask, how are they going beyond their DNA pasts? Yes, let's say if the transhumanists could create more revolutionizing genetic engineering, at that point they can even bring them to a fully normal, regular child. I think that's a blessing in today's world,
Ma-share niyo ang ano ma'am, certificate ma'am?
rather
Ay,
than
sorry.
expecting uh, those children to be only absent from those neurodivergent issues. So I think transhumanists can create more treatments or more genetic engineering methods, more genetic modification methods, treatments in their uh, research activities for making their life to go beyond only mere go beyond mere modifying their genes. Yes. Yes. Can I add something to the second question? Can you spotlight the second question, the Bondikas one?
The second question, sir?
Second question. Yes. Two slash
Okay.
two.
All right. So the second question is from Mr. Bondika.
Yes, I think I want to add a
Yeah.
little bit
Can
of
we categorize the presence of meta-human as part of the Buddhist understanding of not self?
Okay, can we also categorize the presence of metahuman? Metahuman is, as we understand, not even the very nature, but also the enhanced abilities of a human when that person is helped supported by trans. So, when we discuss about uh, not self, definitely these metahuman activities are we are definitely they are not that person's abilities. They were enhanced by the techno enhancement. So so at the point of not self, they are not self. Definitely, they are changing. They are changing, but in our conventional understanding, that person might own these things. Think about now. We don't have to go to meta-human things in that way. Think about someone who is carrying a pacemaker in the body, maybe a titanium prosthetic arm or something, right? All these are changing that person's life. That person might say, I have a better back now, I have a better hand now, I have a better heart circulation now, right? But at the end, when it comes to not self, they all are not us. They all are not in us. They all are temporary adjustments to our body, not self. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you so much, Sir Chandima, for answering our questions. We really appreciate you sharing your time and wisdom with us. We also want to thank the participants for the questions. And now let's proceed to present the certificate of recognition to our beloved speaker. We call on Ms. Makalam, Rona Makalam.
Thank you, Dr. Chandima. Now, for the certificate of recognition, allow me to read the citation. Bukidnon State University, Malaybalay City, Bukidnon. Certificate of recognition is given to Dr. Chandima Gangodawila for being the resource speaker during the second International Philosophy Conference on Buddhism and Decolonialism at Bukidnon State University, given this 15th day of October in the year of our Lord 2025 at Bukidnon State University, Malaybalay City, Bukidnon, Philippines. Signed, Dr. Joy M. Marasol, University President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Joy, for thank you, Bukidnon State University. Thank you, the Philosophy Department. Yes, I think we have come to this point.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandima. No? Although we
Thank you
have
very
so
much.
many questions here, we also would like to appreciate those who participated and who asked their questions. No? Although we don't have the time now, but we are really very grateful to you, Dr. Chandima. Um, for our preparation was like 2 months ago, and you are speaking there from the Department of Philosophy at Ateneo de Manila, and for engaging with us. No, your topic was such a very interesting one, and later on, I would like to study it again and review the video so that I could fully
Yes,
understand what you were discussing here
yes.
personally.
Perhaps I
So
can send you the slides for anybody to
yes,
read
yes,
it
please do so
later
because
on.
there were some faculty here now who also would like to have a copy of your slides where they really appreciate your topic and the insights, the philosophy, that you have shared with us.
Thank you
Okay,
very much. Thank you, Dr.
thank you
Joy.
very much. No, so
Yes,
let's
wishing you a very successful conference.
Yes,
going on.
thank you very
Yes,
much,
yes, thank you.
Dr. Chandima, and we hopefully to have you again, no, in our future endeavors for our department. And
Yes,
that's it, no. So
yes,
see you,
thank,
and thank you very much, okay, for gracing with us in our international philosophy